Hi, fans, welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stephens, also the host of the Jay Stephens Podcast. It is Thursday, March the 4th in the year 2021. The basketball season, regular season, is almost over, and there are some ways your Buckeyes can improve the play. We'll talk about some of those today. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JStephens07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeyes. Lined up for today in segment number 2. We're going to talk about some things the Buckeyes struggle with, that they have struggled with mightily in games they have lost this year. Segment 3, the list came out of Buckeyes that got invites to what would have been the Combine. The list was pretty impressive. We begin today's show talking about some things that I mentioned just about 15, 20 seconds ago, ways the Buckeyes can improve their play right now. The regular season is almost over. It'll be over on Saturday. The Buckeyes host the Fighting Illini of Illinois, who they beat earlier this year. Illinois is coming off an impressive win over the team up north just a couple days ago. The Ohio State Buckeyes basketball team is still one of the best teams in the country. Do not lose sight of that. Do not let that go in one ear and out the other. Do not let somebody say Ohio State's a fake, a fraud. They're phony. They are not a really good basketball team. This is not like football, where one loss can in everything. Where one loss can, in the regular season, can say, national championship hopes, those are out the water. Oh, Big Ten championship appearance, yeah, that's not going to happen this year. Basketball is completely different. And I know going into the year, a lot of people's expectations for this team were very, very, very low. But now seeing how they play the basketball, how they are a well-oiled machine at times, some people say, ooh, championship? Wait. Are we really that good? Yes, the Buckeyes are that good. But coming off a 3-game losing streak, anybody that's human, they may say, man, that was fake, that was weak. They're not as good as they are. Excuse me, they're still a top 10 team in the country. They're still a team that will be probably a 2 seed, no worse than a 2 seed in the upcoming NCAA tournament, unless they fail, they falter, they flop, they mess things up, and they just don't win another game in the regular season, lose to Illinois, then lose in the first round of the Big Ten Conference tournament. Then they might not be a 2 seed. But if they win Saturday, they win a couple games in the Big Ten Conference tournament, there's a good chance your Ohio State Buckeyes will be a number 2 seed in the upcoming NCAA tournament. Well, what do they need to do to turn this thing around, to win Saturday's game? Yes, you beat them once. You beat Illinois once. But keep in mind, you beat Iowa the first time around as well. And then Iowa came back and put a hurting on them about a week ago. One thing that comes to mind when it's talking about this Saturday's game, it is senior day. It is a day where seniors will be celebrated. It's unfortunate that before the season, Abel Porter was not able to be with the team due to a medical issue. He was not medically cleared to play, so he is not with the team right now. Would have been a nice asset, a nice piece, backup role for the Buckeyes that he would have been this year. But you have Jimmy Sotos, a transfer. Unfortunately, his season got ended early with shoulder surgery. You had another transfer, CJ Walker, was originally at Florida State, transferred up to Ohio State to play with Chris Holtmann in Columbus. Kyle Young, Seth Towns, another transfer. Then you got a walk-on, Jansen Davidson Jr. Send these guys out the right way. CJ Walker has already tweeted that this Saturday's game will be his last game in the shot. Seth Towns can't come back. Jimmy Sotos can't come back. Jansen Davidson Jr., do I think will come back? Probably not, since he is a walk-on. But he can come back as well because nobody loses a year of eligibility right now. So with that in mind, send them out the right way. You don't want to go into a senior day game and lose. You don't want to get embarrassed. Yes, Illinois is a really, 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 really good team. They have a potential lottery pick in Ayo Dosunmu, who I am not sure if he's going to play. Come back tomorrow. We'll discuss more about Ayo Dosunmu and if he'll be on the court on Saturday. But nobody knows. But without him, they still beat the team up north handily, soundly. It made them look like This is the same Wolverine team that we have watched play the basketball all year long. Kofi Cockburn is still going to be a force for Illinois, and if Ohio State is not ready, they might have a big problem in him on Saturday. Send the seniors out in the right way. You don't want to lose your senior night game. I want to say, if I remember right, I lost senior night my senior year of high school. Didn't play football in college. It was all in high school, and it hurt. It sucks. It's painful. You don't want to have your last memory in the regular season on the court that you have played on so many times be an L. Don't want that to happen. Send the seniors out the right way. Another thing, make smart movements, make smart decisions. Don't make boneheaded plays. Now, this goes for shots you take, passes you make, cuts you're taking, screens you're setting. This goes for all of that. Defensive rotations. Hey, cutter. Hey, your man's picking. Whatever terminology the Buckeyes use on the basketball court, utilize it every single time. A lack of making smart decisions leads to a lack of communication on the defensive end. Buckeyes need to communicate at a high level as well. Send the seniors out in the right way. Make some smart movements, decisions, and ultimately communicate. One too many times. I'm pretty sure if you watched basketball recently, the Ohio State basketball, you probably have seen and watched them make some really bad issues and bad mistakes on the defensive end. Pick a game in the losing streak. You ain't got to go far. Go back to past 3 games. I'm pretty sure you can look back and say, ooh, that wasn't right. Ooh, that doesn't sit well with me. Ooh, that messes me up. In Ohio State, they're really talented. Talented enough to beat this Illinois team twice this year. But if they don't do things to turn things around, they are going to have a whole lot bigger issues going into the Big Ten Conference Tournament than they have right now. Going to step away very quickly. When we come back, we're going to pinpoint and highlight some issues the Buckeyes have had in losses this year. But first, check this out. RockAuto.com is a family business serving auto parts customers online for 20 years. Go to RockAuto.com and shop for auto and body parts for hundreds of manufacturers. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The RockAuto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose brands, specifications, and prices you prefer. Best of all, prices at RockAuto.com are always reliably low, and the same for professionals and do-it-yourselfers. Go to RockAuto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. Get more of the sports news you need in less time with our new Locked On Today podcast. Peter Bukowski hosts Locked On Today, a daily podcast breaking down the biggest stories with analysis from our local experts. Start your day with all the sports news you need in under 20 minutes. Subscribe to Locked On Today wherever you get your podcast. Come back tomorrow. We will be joined by Brandon Simberg of Daily Illini Sports. I had to say that correctly, as he is a beat writer for them covering the basketball team, as he's going to help us learn a whole lot more about this Illinois basketball team than we already know, especially coming off of that loss or that win a couple days ago against the team up north. The Buckeyes record is a little scary, basically going off of how they had played previously. You think about how they had played, who stepped up in certain games, from Dwayne Washington Jr. to C.J. Walker to E.J. Liddell, and at times off the bench, downtown Eugene Brown from early in the season. Zed Key has been a force as well. There have been numerous people that have been a part of this basketball team that have stepped up when the Buckeyes have needed someone to step up. At the same time, in the losses Ohio State has, a loss to Purdue, a loss to Northwestern, a loss to Minnesota, another loss to Purdue, a loss to the team up north, a loss to Michigan State, and most recently, a beatdown by way of the Hawkeyes from Iowa. There is one trend, and it wasn't just something that happened against the team up north, which started the current losing streak, or against Iowa. It's been a trend all season long. Ohio State has an issue. And actually, in the win against Illinois, we'll talk about that here in a second as well. There's one big player, big being an emphasis, you might know who I'm talking about. One big player for Illinois that the field goal percentage in that game was something that I was amazed by when I looked at it. In a loss against Purdue, the very first loss against Purdue, there's a young man by the name of Trevion Williams. Hinted and highlighted him here on the podcast prior to that first game. Talked about some of his moves, talks about what shoulder he goes over, which way he likes to score the basketball, what some of his moves were. He's a freshman coming off of the bench. But Trevion Williams had 27 minutes off the bench, 16 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, almost a triple-double on 50% shooting from the field. What did we see from the Buckeyes against Luca Garza? I almost said Hunter Dickinson, but that was a couple games ago. Against Luca Garza. Luca Garza got triple-teamed at times, got double-teamed at times, and there was a time when against Iowa, you can't double-team or triple-team because they got shooters everywhere. What does Purdue have at times? They got shooters, and they have guys that are very solid in their role. And Trevion Williams, a freshman off the bench in a role in a place where Matt Painter and Purdue constantly have a 7-footer and constantly have a guy 6'9", 6'10", that is your power forward, your 4-man. That is very, 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 very hard to stop. Matt Painter took advantage of the lack of size Ohio State has. Utilized Trevion Williams, saw we got a big man that can exploit some holes here in the Buckeye defense. And he did just that. The very next loss the Buckeyes have. This one came by way of Northwestern. Northwestern came back in this game, I remember, late in the game, and it was a 3 at the bottom part of the screen. I forget who shot it. But then also I think it was a couple of free throws that sealed the win or gave Northwestern the lead. And then ultimately they won the game. Mitchell Kopp. He is not a big man. Trevion Williams, 6'10", 265. Mitchell Kopp, 6'7", 215. But he had 32 minutes with 23 points, 9 of 16 shooting from the field, above that 50% clip. Very next game that the Buckeyes lost against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I'm going through things this way on purpose to kind of highlight a couple things from these players. Liam Robbins, unfortunately, I believe he's out for the season with a foot injury, a big loss for the Golden Gophers. But Liam Robbins, a starter, 36 minutes, 27 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists and 5 blocks, a 7-foot, 235-pound center for the Golden Gophers. Purdue, another loss to Purdue, the only team this year to beat the Buckeyes twice. It was also only a 2-point loss or a 2-point win for the Boilermakers. Trevion Williams, he started this game, only had 21 minutes. I believe he had 3 fouls, got in a little foul trouble, but 16 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist on 7 of 13 shooting from the field. Once again, above that 50% clip. And here's where things get interesting. You had a 7-footer in Liam Robbins who had 27 points. You had Trevion Williams, the first matchup, who had 16 points, almost a triple-double. You have now Hunter Dickinson, a freshman, who is phenomenal. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. He is really, really, really good at the basketball. Hunter Dickinson, 7'1", 255. NBA pro style, old school style size, big man, but he doesn't play the old school style of game the entire time. He can stretch you out a little bit. 29 minutes, 22 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks on 8 of 14. Once again, above that 50% clip shooting from the field. Aaron Henry, a 6'6", 210-pound wing, 18 points, 7 of 11 shooting from the field, above 50% clip. Do you see where I'm going with this? The Buckeyes not only struggle with big men, but if there's a guy on the other team that's going to get off, he's probably going to be very, very efficient with the basketball as well. And then last but not least, Luca Garza, 6'11", 265-pound big man. Some say he's going to be the Naismith Player of the Year this year in college basketball. 24 points, 11 rebounds, 10 of 16 shooting from the field this past Sunday. But I can't go any further without thinking about the last matchup that Ohio State had with Illinois. Yes, the Buckeyes struggle with big men. Struggle. And it's not just Kyle Young. It's not just Zed Key. It's not just EJ Liddell. It's literally their entire lack of size is a problem in the Big Ten. If you want to look at the recruiting for next year, I've looked at the recruits hard commit so far. Their tallest player is 6'8" that they have pinpointed. I believe he's a young player that plays in the state of Ohio. Name escapes me right now, but he's 6'8" and a wing, a really good wing, honestly. Hey, I have not been able to see that man live. If I was able to see him live and go to a game right now, trust me, I would try my best to see that young man hoop on the court. The last game that Ohio State played against Illinois, Iowa Dosunmu, 22 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, not above 50% clip for shooting, 6 of 16 shooting from the field. Remember at the top of the segment I mentioned about there was a player whose field goal percentage shocked me really big when thinking about how he played the basketball the last time Ohio State and Illinois played? Kofi Cockburn. I believe he's like 285 pounds, 7 foot, 285, 15 points, 11 rebounds, a double-double. But here's the most amazing part for him in Illinois. 7 for 7 shooting from the field. Will Iowa Dosunmu play? I don't know. With the Buckeyes issue, Trevion Williams, 16, 9, and 8. With the Buckeyes issues, Liam Robbins, 27 and 14. Another issue, Trevion Williams again, 16 and 7. Hunter Dickinson, 22 and 9. Luca Garza, 24 and 11. Kofi Cockburn, 15 and 11. With or without Iowa Dosunmu on Saturday, Illinois will probably have a heavy dose of Kofi Cockburn. They understand Kyle Young hasn't practiced consistently all year, and he had a concussion, which caused him to miss the game against Michigan State. EJ Liddell, 6'6", 240. A little size for a guy 6'6", doesn't have the height. Kyle Young can't bang with him. Zed Key can only do so much. The struggles the Buckeyes have guarding the big men this year, they might be put on full display once again on Saturday. How do you combat that? Team defense, now you see why I said communicating was so key to the Buckeyes getting back on track. Really quickly, one more time, gotta step away because when we come back, it's all about the football. And let's just check in and see how many Buckeyes got invites to what would have been the combine this year. But first, check this out. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Football might be over, but NBA, college basketball, and even the NHL are in full swing. BetOnline even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV. Real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head to betonline.ag on your computer or your mobile device. And when you sign up, make sure you use promo code LOCKEDON to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Once again, that is make sure you go to betonline.ag on your computer or your mobile device. And when you sign up, make sure you use promo code LOCKEDON. That is LOCKEDON to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sports book experts. There's simply no better place to get all the news on the Big Ten Conference than with Big Ten Ben Stephens and the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Whether it's football, basketball, baseball, if it's happening in the Big Ten, Ben's got you covered with an in-depth look at the conference every Monday through Friday. Subscribe to Locked On Big Ten wherever you get your podcast. And guys, Combine is not going to be here this year. We're going to close out this show talking about some more football. Speaking of football, if you missed yesterday's episode, go back and check that out, either via WKYC on YouTube or your favorite podcast listening app, because my guy Ryan Roberts unveiled and we dissected his latest 3-round mock draft, what Buckeyes were found in the mock draft, who was left out of the first 3 rounds in his mock draft. Hit play on that episode to find out. But those players that were there in the first 3 rounds of his mock draft, Buckeyes and those that were not Buckeyes, there will not be a normal interview process for the biggest job that they could ever apply for, being a professional athlete in the NFL. No combine this year. I believe there was a combine last year. No combine this year. The pro day itself holds a lot more weight with this year based off of there being no combine. Well, the NFL recently released the players that received combine invites. Now, a lot of them have already tweeted out and said, I got an invite to the combine, or would have been the combine this year. I'm so grateful, so thankful, so excited to have this honor. But they even knew at that time there's no combine this year. NFL announced it. They're doing something different, more virtual. That's why I said pro days hold a lot more weight. But Ohio State not only had a lot, double-digit number of players that were invited to the combine, they also had the most in the country. Not just the most in the Big Ten as well, but the most in the country. Here are the guys from Ohio State that were invited to the combine. Tuff Borland, Baron Browning, Drew Chrisman, Jonathan Cooper, Wyatt Davis, Luke Farrell, Justin Fields, Blake Heibel, Justin Hilliard, Josh Myers, Pete Werner, Sean Wade, Tommy Togiai, and Trey Sermon. And you may think, he didn't have a good year? What are you talking about? He didn't do nothing on the field. He wasn't that hot. Every guy here, I thoroughly believe, deserves and earned the invite. I honestly wish that Hilliard would have been able to play more this year. I know down the stretch at the end of the season, there were some COVID issues and injuries that helped him get on the field more. Also, I believe it was in the national championship game. It may have been against Clemson, but I believe it was against Alabama. We saw a 4-4 front. Something that they probably had a little wrinkle in their bag that they were holding out during portions of the season. I know they like their base 4-3. We're going to talk about that here in a second, a couple weeks down the road. Not next week, but the week after on the Football Wednesday, we will discuss. Actually, it might be next week. To be determined. I'll get back to you on that. But we will discuss the base 4-3 defense and my thoughts about if the Buckeyes should change that or not. But Hilliard did come in at times playing the 4-4s in the goal line set and play phenomenal. Read, react, baby. See things, shoot the gap, tackle for loss. Let's go. How does Ohio State stack up when it comes to the other players, the other teams in the Big Ten, as far as who had combine invites once the NFL released the number of players from each school that was invited to the NFL combine? Ohio State had 14. The team up north was next in the Big Ten with 8. Then Penn State with 6. Then Iowa with 5. Then Northwestern with 4, and nobody else in the Big Ten had more than 4. Nationally, how does Ohio State stack up when it comes to combine invites from those nationally? With the team Ohio State beat in the Sugar Bowl, the Clemson Tigers only had 5 players invited to the combine. Penn State had 6. The team up north had 8. LSU, 8. Florida Gators, 9. Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, 11. Georgia Bulldogs, 11. The Crimson Tide of Alabama, last year's national champion, only had 11, and Ohio State had 14. One thing to think about, you may have heard a couple names, Drew Chrisman, Blake Heibel, and Luke Farrell, as far as guys that maybe you may have thought, man, it wasn't that hot. One guy of the 3 was amazing. You could use your mind to figure out who that was. Another guy has a couple issues. Another guy, okay. But that just shows to what Ohio State football is, what it will continue to be, and why players that are recruited by Ohio State, they put deep thought or something. It's a no-brainer. If I get an offer from Ohio State, I am going. I completely understand it. Congrats to the young man that would have been invited to that would have been at the combine. The invite still holds a lot of weight because not many players can say they were invited. They would have been invited to the combine. Think about how many guys potentially be drafted in the NFL draft at the end of April. Think about how many guys potentially will not be drafted. More won't be drafted than will be drafted, and to have your name in this list of players that got an invite to the combine, part of the biggest job interview some of these guys will ever go through, that invite means a whole lot. Guys, thank you so much for listening and enjoying or watching another episode of Locked On Buckeyes. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JStephens07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeye. Remember, guys, come back tomorrow. Brandon Semberg of Daily Illini Sports will be with us to help us learn more about Illinois' basketball team, what they did against a team up north that worked so well, if we'll see Ayo Dosunmu on Saturday, and a whole lot more.